is the thing here? I can't bring it down. What's going on? Right. So, James, can you just answer? James, would you like to come on? And I'll see if I can get James Beckley on, a good mate of mine who's got a poorly eye at the moment, but we can overlook that. We don't need to draw attention to it and all that. But good lad. Okay, James, I'm going to select you now, my friend. Let's see if we can bring you on. I'm going to invite you, so let's have you on. So, ladies and gentlemen, will you welcome Mr. James Beckley to Toby and the Whole Truth Patreon discussion about Steven Spielberg. It'll take a moment. There he is.
Hello.
How are you, sir?
No patches needed. But yeah,
well, I can't even see anything wrong with you, man. You're looking all good.
Well, I've done makeup in the last 5 minutes, so it's fine.
Good. Okay, so let's get the conversation going. So, James, top 3 favourite Spielberg films?
It's tricky, very tricky. I think for me, I think third is Close Encounters. Oh, and the top 2 are difficult for me because one was like my first ever film I went to see at the cinema, and it had that, like Close Encounters for you, real big appeal. And the other one, I just, as I got older, I just love it. So I think I'm going to go second E.T., first Jaws.
Wow, good shot. All great though.
Tricky. It's so difficult. Yeah.
Isn't it just? I mean, like, if I was to I don't think if I drew up a top 10, I'd be juggling the top 10. And I do think there's something about, and I don't know whether you agree with this, but it is the emotional connection with the way that he makes the films. I mean, I always sort of think that a lot of the reason why I love his films, and I love the films of Ridley Scott, for instance, who's my second favorite director, is I feel like I'm part of them. It's, as an audience member, you're drawn into that world in a way that you feel completely comfortable and you want to take part in it, sort of thing. You're very, very, it's incredibly involving. I mean, would you agree with that? Is that similar for yourself?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, E.T., I think I went to see when I was about 5, and it was just completely engrossed in it. And he sort of does it with all of his films, I think. But with that one, for me, obviously being that age and then sort of growing up and it being my first one, but I got quite into it, and then as I got older, looking into the making of and stuff like that. But I find it's like the characters, it's like the everyman kind of thing, isn't it, that he always has. And even a younger generation, Elliot in E.T., I think was that
fantastic,
kind of like that. But Nedry in not Nedry, is it Nedry? Yeah, in Close Encounters, and Martin Brody and that, they're all just the normal guy, isn't it? And that's kind of where he hits with us.
He came from a very I'd say lower middle class background. His dad was an electrician who was an early pioneer or started working with computers in his early life. But his mum was a teacher or something. It was all quite ordinary life, and he grew up in Cincinnati in Ohio. He came from a very much kind of like a working class, lower middle class American background at a time when America was kind of still recovering from the Second World War. There was this whole. And of course, there was, I've been to Ohio a number of times, and it's incredibly ordinary. It's very, very ordinary. It's like 1,000 Sheffields all bolted together. It's that sort of very working class, very ordinary, sort of very big hearted country, actually, part of the country, actually, And so it doesn't kind of surprise me that there's that sort of attitude in his films, because I think he's probably walked the streets of Cincinnati and places like this and seen this everyman character. And it's a very, very astute observation that, and I think he's obsessed. He seems to me to be obsessed with putting ordinary people in extraordinary circumstances. I think that's kind of part certainly in his early movies. I mean, look at Sugarland Express, and even something like Minority Report. It's a similar thing with the Tom Cruise character and all that. So can you pinpoint? Is it important to you the actual style of the filmmaking? What's the thing that you think keeps you interested in it? So it's a 2-part question. Is it what is it about his films, in essence, that makes you keep coming back? And do you think that the body of work has he been as consistent as you would through his entire career?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the storytelling, as you say, that does just drag you back in. It's always an important thing for me, even in music as well. So it is a really important thing. I think his storytelling, I think for being a child of the late 70s, early 80s, I think it was the one that really hit, apart from George Lucas as well.
Yeah.
But Spielberg was the one, and even the ones that he was executive producers on, like the Back to the Futures and things like that. You see his name at the top, and you're just like, well, this is in the 80s. It was like, well, this is one I need to see.
Yes.
Time. And I remember being really young and like asking, can I watch Poltergeist yet, and stuff like that. So it's even the one he was almost linked to. I'm glad I didn't. I'm glad I didn't at that age. To be fair, I wouldn't have slept for about a year. But yeah, no, it is the storytelling, and I think the way he makes it. So the way he made E.T. all in like order, because it doesn't happen a lot apparently, does it?
No.
Where he did it for the emotional impact on the kids, which I thought was a bit harsh. But it must have just made it such a good process to go through for all the actors involved. They were doing it in complete order. I don't know if he's done that with any others actually, but
I think it's part of his thing. I think again, I think it's the same as it's like, I often sort of think when like making records is a kind of process of, you've got to set up an atmosphere where whoever's working on the record, and me as a part of my production style is similar to that really, where you kind of create a situation where everyone's happy, and you find a way to keep every day moving forward and keep some positivity. And wherever the mistakes lie, you don't point out the mistakes, you just go back to them at some other point and try and get them right. But it's a process, and I think it's definitely something that I think as a kind of as a creative process, I think a lot of people do that. Although I would say that from a filmmaking point of view, that would be incredibly difficult to achieve. Having been on film sets myself quite a bit, they've often got 3 or 4 units working. I mean, when I was doing the Band of Brothers TV series, there was something like 7 units working, all shooting at different timelines at different points in the series, and they were trying to piece it together. So often, an actor would turn up on set, and there'd be, I don't know, whoever it was, Damian Lewis a lot of the time, who I was standing in for, and he would look completely different when he arrived than because he'd come from a different scene. Do you know what I mean? And they'd have to go back on the sides. Oh, where are we now in this? It's episode 4. Oh, we're shooting the bit where he walks through the door, and we'd only have him for 10 minutes, and they'd do that bit, and then he'd piss off to another part. So, you know what I mean? So I think it must have been, if he did do ET like that, which is, I'm pretty certain you're right, then that must have been very complicated,
Yeah, no, absolutely. I can't compete with that really. I was in the background on the bill once, so
good stuff. So with the Jaws thing, I'm intrigued. How old were you when you saw Jaws then?
It was like a rite of passage thing in my family. I think my dad sat me down and said, "You need to watch this film."
Right.
And I remember just being like sucked in, hook, line, and sinker. I must have been about 8, I think.
Okay.
I was a man of the world by then. I'd found out things about birds and bees, and and my sister I had a sister born that year, so I felt like I was ready to watch Jaws, And we sort of sat down and watched it, and apart from jumping out of my skin at the bobbing head, and
I
literally had to go out and buy a shark toy to go in the bath, later on that same week. It was, but it's as you get older, you sort of appreciate all of his films more, but that one in particular, obviously it was, you just like thought, this is scary, or this is great. But then when you look at the way it was made, and obviously watch the documentaries, and I've read a couple of books about the making of it, and just sounded like hell on earth. But
well, I mean, and also, you've got to remember, I suppose, that at the time that he made Jaws, he'd made Sugarland Express, which had been pretty successful. He made Jewel, which was a TV movie that had just blown him out. That's what created him, really. I mean, people don't. I mean, he made a movie called, was it Firelight, before the very first movie he ever made was called Firelight. But that's what got him his job in TV, essentially. And he worked his way through the ranks, working for ABC television specifically. And they used to have a TV movie of the week. And then Jewel was the movie that he got. I think actually what happened was he got asked to do it because another director couldn't do it or something. So. And he had one of his mates, I think it was, what's his name, Mace, I forget, it was based on an author, quite a famous story. But anyway, he adapted it. It was so successful, they had such a reaction to it that they bumped it up to 65 mil and put it out of the cinemas. I mean, for a young man of 26 years old, or 23 or whatever, I mean, imagine what that would have felt like, So then, of course, he does Sugarland Express with Goldie Hawn, which was a big commercial success. Didn't make a lot of money, but it was, in terms of money spent to money back, it was like, okay, well, this guy knows what he's doing. Then he made 1941, which was a huge, overblown, bloated failure in lots of ways, but I still love it. I think it's fantastic.
So the Jaws bit at the beginning of that, isn't there, as well?
Exactly. So then so he was kind of on a little bit on the back foot about, well, are we going to trust him with another movie? Can we what we're going to do, you know. So I think Jaws was one of those movies that kind of like it was touch and go as to whether it was even going to get released. I mean, I know the cutaways. They did a lot of the cutaways. I mean, the head floating out of the thing was done in his swimming pool, wasn't it? In his house.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
They shot it with one bloke. You got him and another bloke. They just did it with a prosthetic, and I mean, brilliant stuff.
I still can't watch that bit now, but I kind of showed it to my kids a couple of years ago, and I said, right, now is the time. It is like I'm pretty sure it's like a tradition now. It's going to be set on. They were exactly the same as me, and literally wanted to watch all of them. I'm like, well, you're going to be quite disappointed as it goes on, but yeah, that's fine. You watch them, but you know, it's just great. The shots, and I think you know, the acting in it's brilliant. The casting was perfect. So
it was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. I love that. One of my favorite scenes in any movie ever is where the girl goes down to the water at dawn. You know, where they're running down the beach, and it's got that gentle. The sea's all gentle, and she's going. You know, something. It's brilliantly plotted and it's so incredibly put together in terms of like the way that he, you know, completely sucks you in emotionally and all the rest of it, and the fact that you know it's all something's going to be dreadfully going to go wrong. You know. It's fantastic, brilliant emotion, right? And also, and on that movie, also a lot of very clever technical things were achieved. I forget what they call it now, but there's a camera technique where they, I think it's called zoom. Oh, I can't remember now. I used to know these terms off by heart, but essentially, it's like they put the camera on a dolly, and there's a famous bit where Schneider is sat in his chair and they're about to announce he can see the fact that there's a shark out in the sea, and he's trying to get everything. But the bear said, "Oh no, we've got to open the beach. It's a bit like Boris Johnson saying it's all fine, it's all fine, right?" But
help out.
Yeah, exactly, right. So, and it's that brilliant shot where Schneider sits up in his chair, and what they do is they dolly back. So they pull the camera back, so the background widens out, but they zoom forward with the lens. But they do it so they never change the direction. The distance from his face, and so the face stays in perfect focus, but the background widens, and it's supposed to give a sense of anxiety.
Yes,
it's an incredible shot, and I think he was the first person to perfect that, you know, sort of thing. So a lot of really clever stuff going on, you know. Anyway, so. Brilliant movie. Just going to answer a few questions. Stay on the screen. There's a real good couple of things said here. I think Blade, I thought you had a great question there. I'm just flipping, can't quite see that now. I think Blade was asking, Trent was saying, what about the stories that he was able to direct? You know, where did they come from, and wasn't he lucky to get those stories? Well, he was, but he worked with some incredible writers, didn't he? I mean, I think what's she called? I mean, he married one of the ladies who was one of his writers, Matheson, I think she was called, as I remember. Let me have a look here. It's written on. Here we are. Where are we? Oh, can't remember. No, it doesn't say now. It doesn't say on here. Well, I mean, because he often comes up with the stories and then brings other people in to write them as screenplays. Yeah. And he famously said, and one thing I always remember is he said, you know, you can't, as a director, you must know how to write. It's a bit like a musician, you know. Yeah. If you're going to play an instrument, you must know how to write. Really, that's the thing. But yeah, he just gathered some incredible people around him, and I think like even the camera operators and the DOPs, Vilas Ziegman for a start, you know, one of the greatest DOPs of all time. There was stuff on Close Encounters that had never been seen before. The way that they imaged it and all the rest of it, it's extraordinarily good. Okay, so
have you done the mash bit when you've been eating mash?
Oh yeah.
Counters.
Exactly. So what we got here? So Gary saw Jaws at the cinema when I was 11. Such an experience. Jewel terrified me. Blade. Yeah, of course, that was an amazing. It was incredible, that film. I mean, I've got that, and I've put it on not all that long ago, and it still has the same effect. And it's nothing to do with the time. It's just an incredible story and so brilliantly directed. You know. Phil, Bruce, I watched Jaws a few years ago when I was about 13. I was in awe of it. It's definitely one of my favorite films. Yeah, he's fantastic. Oh, it's Noah saying that. Okay, well, yes, great, Noah, absolutely. That's the only shot that stands out for me. Oh, which one's that then, Blade? The one I was talking about? That shot is awesome. Exactly. Okay, I want to bring someone else. Stay on the screen, though, please, James. Now, Phil, I mean, because Phil can't. How about Gary? Would you fancy it? I mean, or I quite fancy maybe getting Barry on again. If I can get you both on, if you'd fancy coming on talking about this, I can see there's a a lot of people have just as much passion about Mr. Spielberg as I am. So let's bring some John Williams. Hang on, let's talk about John. Yeah, oh yeah, John Williams' music is so important to me in the film. Yeah. Absolutely, we would be remiss of us not to mention John Williams, in conjunction with that, with Spielberg, and of course, George Lucas as well. But it reinvented the kind of concept of an orchestra, bringing that sort of aplomb back to the cinema, wasn't it? Hang on, what's it? Barry, I'm actually in the bath, dude. So I'll have to pass this time, Barry. I can't believe that. That's funny.
Has he got a toy shark in there, though?
Yeah, exactly. You got a little rubber shark, haven't you? That's. I know that. That's good. Okay, so Gary, fancy coming on? So what do we think of Jaws 2 and 3? Not a lot. Didn't mind Jaws 2.
Yeah, Jaws 2 was okay.
Kind of got away with it, didn't it? But really.
Yeah.
I mean, when Michael Caine started getting involved, I was lost me completely. I gotta be honest. Hang on a minute. Right, yes, good, very funny. Come on, someone else. Gary Worrell, would you fancy coming on for it? How about you, going Blade? Would you like to come and have another chat? Because you seem very effervescent about this. You're making a lot of comments. I'd love to speak to you again. Should we? A bit noisy here, mate. Family watching Mamma Mia. Okay, let's get Blade on. Okay, no problem there. Let's get Blade on again. Let's invite Blade. Let's get this party started. Yes, exactly. So no, what do you think of his? Let's talk about the later works. I mean, obviously there was a kind of a situation where, and even he said he reached a point with, he got asked to do the second Jurassic Park, and didn't want to do it.